for municipalities and counties is they can go by right or special use permit, whichever they choose. The special use permit is essentially a quasi-judicial proceeding, so if they meet the requirements, they have to be allowed. And I think that some of the charter schools and the traditional public schools were having some issues and concerns with some of the subjective legislative rules that have been adopted with respect to schools. And the planning horizon for schools is much different than traditional development. And commercial districts seem to be the most natural place, not light industrial, not residential.
Quick follow-up, yeah. Has there been any opposition to this aspect of it, either from local municipalities or anybody else you're aware of?
Because of the other things in this bill, they haven't been as focused on this. I do know that traditionally counties and municipalities do not appreciate legislative involvement in land use necessarily with respect to uses within districts. So I would not want to speak for them on this point, but in all fairness, they've been a little more concerned about some of the other provisions, so this may not have bubbled up yet.
All right. Well, maybe that just happened. I don't know. Well, thank you. Appreciate you.
Follow up? Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. Are there other questions? Or Senator Marcus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I raised this a little bit yesterday, but like you said, Senator Lee, we were more focused on the ETJ section. So, and I also, speaking for Mecklenburg and the towns of Davidson, Cornelius, appreciate you exempting and hearing our concerns on that. I would just say that, and I appreciate you've changed the minimum lot requirement section, but Section 4 to me still feels like an overreach by state government into what should be local decisions about lot size. So I'm pleased it's better than it was before, but I guess I will just state for the record that I think we should let our local governments decide these sorts of things.
Brief comment.
Yes, Senator Lee.
Thank you, Senator Marcus. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. These are not my, ideas. That workforce housing, affordable housing across our country has been an issue in growing states, and so states have been working on a variety of different mechanisms to try and somehow alleviate some of that burden. And while I do hate to get too deep into land use, and even though I'm a land use lawyer, I usually don't get involved in a lot of these issues, I do feel that we have to do something. And if someone else has another idea, I'd love to hear it. This was the only thing I could really think of that actually reduced the cost without creating an additional burden on anyone else. Most of the infrastructure impacts and development are taken on by the property owner, the developer, whether it's roads, water, sewer. They, from laying the pipe to paying impact fees. They don't call them impact fees; they're SDCs or whatever they call them. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and I'm open, and I know the league is here, and I've been talking to them, and I've talked to others. I'd be happy to sit down around a table and talk about a lot of these issues. This is something that I know a decent enough about to have some, what I would think would be some good perspective. But be happy to sit down with you or anyone else on some of these issues, because the things that we're facing with respect to affordability, at least in my area, and I know it's a lot of your other areas, I mean, it's crushing a lot of folks. And so this is just one little piece of the puzzle. There are lots of other pieces, but I think this will help, and it may help in a much sooner way, because if you have a 10-acre lot, you've now just decreased the infrastructure cost on that 10 acres significantly if it was zoned or the minimum lot size was, 1 unit per acre or 2 units per acre.
Just a follow-up, if I could.
Yes, follow-up.
I appreciate that. I agree. Affordable housing issues are big, top of mind for a lot of people in Mecklenburg as well. So I appreciate that invitation to work on that. I hope we will. I think there's a lot of other ideas that we could talk about and work on as well. So thanks for that.
Okay. Are there other comments or questions regarding the amendment that is before us? Okay. Senator Overcash has indicated a desire to vote the amendment, and so that's before us. All in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. The bill is amended is back before us. Senator Lee, is there anything else that you wish to address as it relates to this bill?
Not unless there are any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee members? I did have somebody from the public that was signed up to speak on this bill. I believe I have is there anybody from the public that wishes to address this bill? Please step up to the microphone, and Sergeant at Arms will direct you.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Senator Lee. My name is Erin Winia. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And I want to say right off the bat on this bill, we really appreciate all of you asking for the opinion of cities and valuing that, and Senator Lee especially. Thank you for working with us to try to address the issues that city officials have raised to us that we've tried to communicate with you, particularly about the original version of the bill, which, of course, proposed to eliminate ETJ authority statewide. So this amendment does vastly reduce the scope of the bill. We're going to be working to try to figure out exactly how much of an impact that will have on the ground, and we will communicate that back to you as well. So we really appreciate that. Just to let you know, though, a little bit about ETJ before you take the vote. 2/3 of North Carolina cities and towns right now have ETJs, where they exercise their planning and development codes in those areas. The tool has existed since the post-World War II era, so it's been around for a really long time, and it continues to have value and resonance even today. It helps cities and towns plan for growth on the edges of town. So city officials generally believe this is a tool that's working, and they would like to keep it. We really appreciate, again, Senator Lee and the amendment for keeping it intact in many areas of the state. I think I had prepared these comments for yesterday before, so I'm sorry, I'm scrambling a little bit here. One thing I would just like you all to be aware of is that 14 counties right now do not have any zoning at all. And so what that means is if ETJ goes away in those areas, then there is no zoning at all that applies in those particular parcels. For those areas of the state, that could be a pretty big change. It transfers all the responsibility to counties. So that would be an effect of this bill once it goes into effect. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you, Senator Lee, for allowing us to continue to work with you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Senator. My name's Tim Minton. I'm with the North Carolina Home Builders Association, and we just want to say thank you to Senator Lee. We've had lots of discussions about the issue of affordability and availability, and density is really the main issue that we're trying to solve, and this bill does that. If you think about land is a fixed cost. We can't create any more land in North Carolina. And so the only way we can provide the shelter for people who are moving to North Carolina, people who are growing up in North Carolina, is be able to use the resources that we currently have. And this bill tries to address that. We thank him very much for doing that. The cost of land, some places in North Carolina, you're looking at $200,000 per acre to purchase land. And so if we're not able to develop those pieces of land in an effective way that not only protects the environment, but also does all the other requirements are there, we're not going to be able to build affordable housing in North Carolina, and this bill does that. So we appreciate your support.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else from the public who wishes to address this bill? Senator Lee, you recognized?
Mr. Chairman, I was so focused on some of the other parts of the bill that I've had a few arrows shot at me. There's one other part of the bill I wanted to highlight that I think is really important. It says that when you're doing rezonings and things like that, they require open space requirements, but they don't let you include certain things in open space. What this bill would do would state that you have to include certain areas in open space that some jurisdictions allow, other jurisdictions don't, like wetlands and things like that. So just wanted to make sure I highlight that as well. It is applied inconsistently across the state. This will make it consistent. It's not as far as maybe some of the home builders wanted to go, and it might be farther than maybe some of the cities wanted to go, but it's somewhere right in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lee. Senator Grafstein?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Just one more comment, really more than a question. I appreciate the discussion around affordable housing, and I think we really have to continue to make a distinction between housing affordability for folks who are middle class and just are now being stretched further versus affordable housing for people who just truly cannot purchase market rate housing. And so I want to be, as this conversation moves forward, I hope that we really do talk about affordable housing and find ways, and hopefully in collaboration with the home builders, about how we can empower local governments, municipalities to have some more flexibility about how they ensure that they have available affordable housing.
Mr. Chairman, just one follow-up.
Yes,
if you don't
Senator
mind.
Lee.
I don't mean to drag this out, but
You're fine.
But
It's a big bill.
you're absolutely right, especially with low-income housing. So I consider affordable housing with a capital A and H to be 60% AMI and below, maybe 80% AMI and below. There are other things that I did not include in here that I would have wanted to include that would address counties and municipalities, because what you see in the rezoning process are the additional costs. I'll give you a really good example. We have a low-income housing project that we actually funded on the state level, federal funds, local funds, county, and city. And they had to stop the project because there was a tree in the middle of the project. And so they made them redesign the entire site because of the tree. This was a tens of millions of dollars of a project, and now the city's going to do a text amendment. They're doing the right thing, but this goes on, and they do it to private developers, which is not great. But when it comes to a lot of these other projects, and I've worked on one personally, you've got a window, as you know, to get your low-income housing tax credit deal done, and sometimes the municipalities and the counties put roadblocks in the way because they've got citizens standing out there that are really concerned about the project that they're getting ready to approve. So I just wanted to get that out there for everybody to hear, since all the stakeholders are in this room. It's not just the home builders and developers. A lot of times it is the municipalities and the counties.
Thank you, Senator Lee. I appreciate it. Senator Overcash has moved for a favorable report as to Senate Bill 675 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill with a referral to Senate Finance. That is your motion, isn't it, Senator Overcash?
It is, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Senator Lee. We appreciate it.